Remember what I was saying last week about motivation and scheduling things and having a routine? Wednesday morning, midday, recorded 2 videos, edited one, so I'm doing little shorts you might have seen for marketing. They were putting them on their TikTok channel. I thought I should put them here as well. Anyway, I know it's hard to get started, but it does feel good when you get stuff done. And I was chatting to another student this week, which reminded me also, if you're struggling to get started on a thing, break that thing up into smaller chunks, and then you can tick off those chunks, and at least you feel like you've accomplished something, right? And you have. I've got a meeting this afternoon at 1, so I've got an hour now to write some notes for this week's podcast, have the meeting, and then try and bang out that podcast, give it to Chris, he'll upload it. Feels good to get stuff done. The other night I watched Johnny Mnemonic. It's a film from 1995.
Your storage capacity? I can carry nearly 80 gigs of data in my head.
It's based on a short novel by William Gibson. William Gibson is the sci-fi writer that invented cyberpunk. I've read all of his novels and I think his short stories. And he's extraordinarily prescient. The interesting thing is that Johnny Mnemonic is set in 2021.
The year is 2021.
And there is a plague, a neurovirus maybe, running rampant around the world. And the second scene in the film is in Beijing, in China, and everybody in the scene, there's a protest, everybody is wearing a mask. Science fiction writers say generally they're not trying to predict the future, they're trying to lay out what the future could be so that we could avoid falling into that future.
Put the data into the brain of a human courier.
I love Johnny Mnemonic because I tend to use one of the lines.
How did you fit all that in your head anyway?
I had to dump a chunk of long-term memory.
You had to dump a chunk of what?
My childhood.
And that's what I feel like trying to teach anatomy, and probably you feel like trying to learn anatomy, is you have to dump your childhood to get all the anatomy inside. I should use that clip in my intro video to students next year, shouldn't I? In William Gibson's most recent novels, there's a pair, I don't know if it's going to be a trilogy, but in the first one, he outlines a number of catastrophes that occur over a long period of time and change the world significantly. And he talks about the pandemics of the 2020s. This was written before 2020, I think it was published January 2020 or late 2019. I don't know if that was squeezed in on the printing press or what, but right, runtime. The size of these stinging nettles. They're getting to my height. I've dressed for the rain and the sun's coming out. I'm not complaining. Look what I've got back. Can you tell? Got my stride length back. I thought I'd talk a little bit about expertise in medicine, or more specifically anatomy. And the idea of expertise is it's a contentious topic. It's got loads of different aspects to it. It's even contentious in medicine. But as the first years have got anatomy exams tomorrow, I thought I'd talk about it in terms of the developing expertise that I see in students, you know, while we're out for a run. Right, if we're quiet down here, you might see some bunny rabbits. No rabbits, I guess they're hiding from the rain like everybody else. After several weeks of managing the length of my calf muscles, particularly flexor hallucis longus, and strengthening my calf muscles again by adding some calf exercises into my routines. So plantar flexion, weighted, poorly balance right on the metacarpophalangeal joints. So all the muscles have to work a little bit to, you know, and it makes them stronger. And now, my normal gait is back again. If your calves don't work, nothing works. I've been back to running at zone 2 heart rate and power. It doesn't feel, I don't feel like an old man hobbling along with calves made of wood anymore. I feel like a runner again. So of course I've overdone it this week. This is like my 4th or 5th run. Took him for a long run the other day. Longest run she's ever done apparently. Big hill, isn't it? Finished her off. Anywho, expertise. So expertise is, it gets defined as different stages, but you're essentially going from a novice with little or no knowledge or skill to someone that has a very high level of knowledge or skill. And I'm not going to go into all the definitions and theories and arguments. I'm just going to say what I see. So when students learn anatomy, they start with us with very limited anatomical vocabulary, an idea of where things are in the body, but it's not detailed, it's not complete. So their use of language and description and their knowledge base is limited. Then we teach anatomy for 2 years on the medicine course and 1 year on some of the other courses, and their development of expertise, which will continue right up until they become surgeons, maybe, and they'll develop that expertise further even at that level. Their brains get really good at putting the answer to a question into their minds. So that's their development of expertise, as in they look at a structure or they think about a function and bump that extra knowledge about how that occurs, what it is, where it goes to, where it comes from, what happens if you cut it, all that sort of stuff. It's there. It's either readily accessible or can be recalled with a little bit of effort. On top of that, the anatomical language and the language of medicine and the vocabulary broadens and gets used so often that it becomes a part of their day-to-day natural language. And the thing about expertise is you notice none of this happening. You notice the things you can't do, that you can't remember, that you can't describe, and that's fine. Go and look those things up and you're developing your expertise. But when you're becoming an expert, you don't notice the things that you know and can do, and you need to be a little bit mindful of that. And the thing is, it's not like a computer game. It's not like you level up and you have a number and you know where you are and how far you've progressed and that there's an end, or that you know where the end is. None of that. It's a very soft thing. Kind of none of us notice that we're becoming experts, and there's a little bit of a secret to what happens when you really start to understand the subject, really get to grips with its knowledge over years and years. But I'll talk about that in another week. If I ever get too old to enjoy splashing in muddy puddles, that will be a sad day. The rain makes the leaves heavy. Oh, you're gonna bramble. If you're lucky enough to not want for much in life, and you're fit enough to run 100 kilometers in a day, that feels pretty free. These are all pushing in much more than they normally would because it's been raining and they're wet. So good job I'm wearing a jacket after. There we go, look at this. I'm adding an extra hill, going a longer route now because I still feel great. Good day for spiky shoes today for sure. Oh, you can become an expert in mud, stones, on different slopes, how it changes in different weather conditions, which shoes to wear, how to balance yourself, how to run, and you don't even realise or notice or think about doing it. That's a form of expertise, and it all comes from not perfect practice, what's the word? You know, purposeful practice. That's the one. Ooh. Ooh. So, in whatever you are studying for, training for, working your way towards becoming an expert, good luck. And remember that if you become an expert, you probably won't even notice that it happened.